So we want to do a little bit of coding to kind of explore this idea of if then, true false, else if, truthy falsy. So we're going to build a number guesser game where the website will pick a random number and we as the user have to try to guess it. That sound good? Simple enough, right?
No.
You can build a lottery system. So, do you have a question?
Why did you erase all that?
Oh, that's just the template. I don't need it anymore. But I can keep it there if it'll make you feel better.
No, I was just wondering because I've when I was working on mine, it was giving me some sort of error message.
Yeah, so this is just part of the scaffolding that says like, here's everything working. What I should do and what I didn't do because I kind of trusted it was I should make sure that everything works first. That's always a good kind of like, hey, are we good? Does everything work? But I kind of trust it that it's going to work.
Yesterday I deleted the Java and then I went to the HTML and also deleted the hello world and took off the script. And it wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
We found out that it was the script. Took it out too.
So I'm going to kind of, so as with any project, I kind of want to map out what I want to do. So I want to gather requirements because I want to code with purpose, to kind of have ideas of what I'm doing. So I'm just going to create a new file, and I'm going to create something called user stories. User stories is a fancy term for what do I expect my app to do. That's it. So I want the user to be able to input a name. I want the app to pick a random number between 0 and 100. I want to allow the user to guess that number. The user keeps guessing until they get the number right. Number correct. If the user guesses correctly, then we display a success message. Does that sound good? We all on the same page so far? Page. It's a website pun. So let's go over it. Let's create the HTML for this real fast. Looking at this, it sounds like I'm going to need a text box for the name. I'm going to need a text box for the guess. And I'm going to need a place to display the output, display results. Right? Kind of have a good idea. You notice how I haven't actually touched code yet.
Can you do it from 0 to 10? So it would be easier to.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll actually build it in a way that we can change that. So does it sound good? So HTML. Boop, boop, boop. I want to get rid of this. Build a section that has a what is your name? Input, type text, placeholder, enter your name. We have a section that has a H3. Oh, the arrow. The child, yep.
And then you can do times 3.
Yep.
Go all the way in.
Yep.
One order list or keep it easy.
Welcome.
Well, greater than li times 3.
Yep, yep, yep. Jenny, is that right? Jenny? Yeah. and then the input. Placeholder. So all I've done here, I said, give me a input box that says, what's your name? Give me, and then kind of build out the structure for this.
You put the span around Jenny from the block because you're gonna that's what you're gonna change later, right?
Perfect. Yep.
Also, say that again.
Michael, say it again.
So the span, he put a span around Jenny from the block because eventually you're gonna add some kind of class name or something to it, and then that's how you're gonna target it to change it later on with your JavaScript.
Like we did with the points and the team name in this folder.
Yep.
Team name,
Yep. So I know I'm going to be changing that later.
Oh.
I know I'm going to be changing that later because I'm gonna update it with their name. So I want to make that an element that I can target later.
Span. Any particular reason why span?
Span has no sort of formatting with it. It's an inline element. It's just kind of like, if I show you what this looks like, you're not going to tell. Conversely, if I used a section
or input.
or something else, it's going to do that.
So spans go just stay in normal section, kind of makes a new line.
Yeah. Yes, span stack inline, so it's whatever it is. Section stack vertically.
Do you not need a closing input tag?
You do not. Inputs are self-closing tag. So you don't need a closing tag, or you can have a little dash there. That's personal preference. I like to close it by that, but you don't need an actual closing tag. If you put a closing tag, it'll break the page. I think that was someone's issue yesterday, if I recall correctly. It will behave
You
oddly.
can put it there. Everything will become red or something.
Yeah, it will behave oddly. Not crash, but not normal, but not right. So I want a button here. Actually, no, I don't want a button there. I want a button here. That's good. Now I need a results output. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff, so let's make it a list. Actually, let's do a section with a H3, whoop, HH3 results, and then move view up. Whoop. All right. So now we have our HTML. Are we okay with this?
Just straight, how did it bring the URL up?
Alt, up and down.
And it automatically indents it where it should be.
Yep.
That's nice.
It's just hold
Alt.
Alt up down.
Or
and
option.
move your current line up and down.
Yep. You can also do it with a block of text.
Oh, that's easy.
I don't know where I grabbed that from.
Learn about that.
Here we go.
That looks right. Yes.
Control Z is also.
It is. So now I'm at a good place.
Go back to eight. So when you ask, so go back to there. So what is your name? You enter Jenny.
I'm going to enter something,
Okay.
and as I type, it's going to update this right here.
That's okay. So yeah.
Oh, I
So
should
whatever.
Oh, you need another thing.
You don't need another button because as we type, it's going to update.
You can also put it, just type it, hit a button.
Yeah, yeah. But we're going to do a couple of different events. Just so we're not always click event. Kind of broaden your horizons a little bit. I'm going to take a guess here. That's going to say whether I guess correctly or not. And hopefully I'll guess correctly. So my HTML is done. I'm going to be a good developer and commit HTML is complete.
It doesn't say anything about take your guess about what. You know it's a number that the user don't.
Good point. Between 1 and 10. We will use that span later. But have a vote. We will use that span later. I swear to you. So spans. Lots of spans. All right, so the first thing we want to do is get their name and save it someplace. So I want to save it here. So I'm going to give this a ID of player name. And then over here, I'm just going to save this as well. Requirements.markdown. So over here, I want to hook up an event to that text box, right?
Parentheses, player name.
Yeah. So we'll give this a class of player name input,
Oh, it's gonna be there.
and then what were you saying, Mike?
Parentheses dot player name input.
Yep. And then add event listener. What event do I want here?
Time click text.
Typing,
Typing? Do we know what that's called?
input, text.
As you go.
Wheel.
Wheel. Let's see. It would be. Nothing in my autocomplete is actually making me happy right now. Like 90% sure it's change. A good 90. And I want to make a function called update player. So I haven't made the function yet, but I know that's what I want it to do. So I'm naming my function before I create it. I'm going to go make it now. That's that whole developing with intent kind of thing, and using my naming conventions to my advantage.
And it has to be above it, right?
Yep.
You have to make the function before you do that.
Yep. So we have constant update player name.
If you're calling a function within a function, does that the function that you're calling need to be before it as well?
That's best practice.
Okay, that doesn't.
It doesn't. It just needs to be in the same scope. It is so. This is a complicated story of when things get run versus when things don't get run. So if you're defining a function inside of a function, that inner function is not defined until that outer function is run.
Correct. Yeah. So if you wanted to, you could put the event listener on top.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not. It doesn't really matter.
I always say put your event listeners at the bottom.
That's
Just yeah, best practice of it's simpler, it's easier. That's how it works. If you want them at the top, too bad, so sad. Update player name. So I want to console.log. Yep, updating player name.
just change the link.
Find and replace. There we go. So I want to make sure, as Michael said, I want this to work. I want to make sure that I'm tagging the right event right here. So over here in my inspect, I expect that when I type something in here, that I get that message in the console. Does not work.
Change is not. So change is not.
So change is not what we want. So how would we find this?
Google it.
What would we Google?
Text change.
Change.
You would need
Elements.
event attribute.
Text change event
Yes.
JavaScript.
Let's try it.
Always be sure to include the language. I feel like this is, yes,
On change.
on change, on change. I'm gonna head over to Stack Overflow because I don't know if I trust the summaries here. Update another here. Yep, it is. On key down.
On key down.
Yes. So here's the other answer. So on change, but that's only I want. So if I'm zooming in here just so we can all see this. Yes, I know you use cookies. I know that. Every site uses cookies. All right, so I'm going to check out the answers here. So HTML5, there's an on input. This is what we want. Window, add event listener, input.
It's basically saying as you're entering information.
Yep. Add event listener to. I don't like that. That's way too broad and generic.
One key down. What did you try that one?
So let's do on key press.
Doesn't always occur on text change.
Yes.
So like if somebody will press like the arrow button.
Mm-hmm. That's jQuery. We don't like jQuery here. Let's do on key up. So on key up. Nothing.
That's from 2009.
Yeah. So I'm going to head off of Stack Overflow. So I've tried a couple of Stack Overflow, right? This is a really good example of what to do whenever you can't find an answer. So I'm going to head over to MDN. So change input. Head over to the input tag. Check out. Doing a search for events here. Nothing. So it looks like it's on change, which someone said,
Could you do like key down is alpha thing?
yeah. So am I targeting? Update player name, add event listener on change, update player name.
Where's your player name input at? Is it right spot in the HTML?
That's what I'm checking next. It is player name input. Player name input, it's a class. On change. Compatible in the browsers. So we're going to define it a different way. So instead of using the add event listener,
I'm sorry.
so instead of using our traditional syntax, I'm going to take their working example and modify it to use my code. So if we look at it, we're just saying, hey, grab me the input box, right? Nothing too crazy there. It has a property called onChange, which is the event, the onChange event, and I'm pointing it to my update player name.
Just mean like the setup of it makes more sense in my head than
Yeah.
function with two parameters.
Different way to do it.
When you point a event to a function, can you put the parameters in the function there, or would you have another function that runs a function that's function?
Yep. That still did not work. Ooh. Boop. Aha. So whenever it clicks off of it. Hello. Boop. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, it's not entirely unchanged.
So I want to get the player name. So we document dot query selector dot player name input dot value, and I want to update.
To change it to
Node value. No value.
Sometimes it tells us.
So yeah, it's its best guess. I want to update the player name itself. So document dot query selector ID player name dot text content equals player name. Should look similar to yesterday, right? Nothing too nuts there, right? We're just saying we have an event that we're listening for. Whenever that event fires, we're going to take value from over here and put it in over here. So now, my name is Jimmy.
It's kind of better that it does it after you click off too, anyway, because you would have been typing it.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is a bit more sleeker and professional looking than having it change while you type.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yay. That's good. I've done something, right? I've gone over to my requirements. I want the user to input name in a text box.
Checklist.
Yep.
So onChange, is that a function?
Yep.
And is that using that event listener in its function?
Yeah, this is a function that is a property of that DOM element. And we're just changing whatever property it was. It was nothing before that. We're just saying, hey, here it's actually this function. Yes, so as Michael pointed out, this is now a checklist for us to do. And this checklist turns into a commit history.
Structure.
Remember you to commit.
Yep, it's like, oh, I did this, I'm done. Done, next, commit, done.
It also gives you a darker shade of green on your data.
It does. More commits are awesome.
You have to push it, or it doesn't matter. It's already a commit. When you push 5 commits or whatever you have done before.
Yes, so I'm committing locally right now, and that's it. So right here. So now, I need to pick a random number between 0 and 10. So I want to do that whenever the page is loaded, right? Whenever everything's loaded and ready to go. So I'm going to bring this back down, comment that back in, put this back in. We're going to call this init for initialize. And now in here, I want to pick a random number between 1 and 10. Does anyone know how to do this in JavaScript?
Is there a math library?
There is a math library.
Random?
So we have const random number, random pick equals math.ran. Now let's use our IntelliSense real fast. Returns a pseudo random number between 0 and 1.
You want to times it, right? Times by, what was it, 10? Times
Yeah.
by 10.
So we'll times it by 10 to move the decimal place over 1. So it gives us a random number between 0 and 10.
Seal.
Yep. Then we can do math.ceiling on that. That will truncate it. So it's only that whole number. So console.log random pick. Just so we see what it is.
So when you, the console log, are you asked, so you can pretty much have it display what that
Yep.
text?
Yep.
Which you give, you type it in, whatever.
Yeah.
Show me,
This is just so me as the developer can see what the actual target number is. So I'm not sitting here all day like actually guessing like is it 5, is it 5, is it 5. So I just want to validate that I'm picking the correct random number.
So say this is all done, completed.
Yeah.
Do you need to have the console.log in there? So that's just for you while you're
Yep.
developing or debugging.
Yep, and a lot of companies will actually say like no console.logs in production. On the other side, a lot of companies don't care. It's always fun to walk around the internet with your console open.
Just to see what comes up.
Yep.
See what people are writing there.
So like, what's a good site?
Hacker News.
Hacker News. It's a news.y combinator. A good site for tech news. If we go over to our console, hey, there's nothing there. But if I go to like, I don't know what this is.
So you're trying to say people put like random like Easter egg comments inside or something?
That's what we're looking for. Like,
Yeah, I've seen sites that have like little ads for developers. So like, side rant, like sometimes companies like to be cheeky and like will post a job and they'll have an email address for it. But then in the console or in the HTML, there's a different email address. And like if you send it to the one that's actually on the page, you may or may not get a response. But if you send it to like the hidden one, you probably will get a response. So they'll hide it in like the console or in the HTML somewhere. There's a link sometimes linked to like special job boards, like, oh, you opened up the developer console. You're a developer. You should come work with us, kind of thing.
I saw one where they had like encrypted, or they made some text like look like a password, black dots, and you could go into the HTML and instead of hide, you just take out hide or whatever the thing was,
Yep.
and it would show what the actual thing.
Yeah, that's how I remember my passwords. Is if I forget them, I go and look at the console and stuff. But anyways, so yeah, like the console, so console.logs, whoever asked that question about production, like, sort of, kind of. So, current number is 6. Our random function is working. So what's the bug here?
Nothing happens if you guess the number.
Well, yeah, but we're storing the number in a local scope, right? So I can only access it.
You need to make it global.
Yep, I need to make it a global number. So let random pick we'll initialize it to 0. It's always good to give it a nice initial pick. And then we just delete that. So now I can access that now anywhere inside of my app, which is good, right?
The other day you said it was,
Yeah.
you want to make globals constant.
So we want to make this a constant. So let's rearrange our code so that this is a constant. Does that sound good? So I'm going to make a commit. First pass at gen random number. So I want to make a commit because I want to make sure that this is bookmarked in time. This is working. It's not the best solution. It's not a good solution, but it's working. Yeah, it's a good first pass. So in case I foobar this up in the next 5 minutes, I can always go back to this place.
Hey, quick item. What's the command for the to get your last commit?
To undo my last commit.
Or no, to like if you foobar it up and you want to go back, what is it again?
Inside of the terminal, it is git checkout, and then the file or folder that you want to revert.
That we've been working on.
Yes.
Whatever one we've been working on.
Git checkout dot
The current-
will reset everything.
Oh, everything.
Yes.
We don't want to do that.
Right. I mean, I do that, but I commit often.
Dot just means current, right?
Yeah.
that will just check out the last one.
Yep.
And you just committed, so
Yeah, I won't do anything.
Yeah, VS
There's
Code is it.
also tools in VS Code. If I change something, save it. It's like, oh, you changed this. There's an undo button right here.
I'll take you to your last commit.
And there's one option changes too, like a bigger one.
There's been a couple times where I've been like, well, maybe I should just go back and just instead of trying to fix everything, just start back over.
Yep. So we have this. Let's make it so that our random number is a constant. So that means that we need to define it up here, right? Need to gen the random number, right? So let's take our logic, wrap it up inside of a function that returns the number. Have we talked about returning yet? Great segue into returning. I know this is truthy and falsy, but here's a bonus topic for you. So I'm going to create a function, call it generate random number. and another keyword return. I'm going to return this. So what this function is doing is this function is doing one thing, and that's generating a random number between 1 and 10, right? That's it. So when I say returning, is that I'm going to call this const random pick equals generate random number. So whenever your browser hits this line of code, it's going to go, oh, I'm going to call generate random number. It's going to execute it, do the actual generation. Then it's going to return the value back to be assigned into random pick. So now random pick is a constant, what we wanted, and is being generated by one tiny block of code, and that's it. So now I no longer need to do that here. I can still keep my console.log here. That's fine.
That's a console log.
It's just a console.log now. So I'm returning the value from this scope into whatever scope this is in.
Return. So for sure. It's just saying that it's saving it to your,
Yes.
so it can be used later.
Yep. Remember how I talked about the inputs, the logic, and the outputs? Well, here our generate random number has 0 inputs. It's doing some logic, and then it's producing an output. That output is that return value. So, is it still working? Good, it's still working. So, better random value. So, we have some values going on here, different requirements. Now, 20 minutes later, let's actually use some logic. I want to look at what the user guesses and see if it equals the number that we have saved. So let's hook up an event to our guess button. ID equals guess button. Half hour. Okay. Guess button. Document dot query selector. Thank you. Add event listener. Click. Click. And then this is going to be compare guesses. Compare guess.
Just so I'm sure, if you wanted to use the previous way of writing, it would just be dot click
Dot on click.
on click.
Yep.
Okay, and then equals compare guess.
Yep. So now I'm going to create my compare guess. Console.log. Comparing guessing. Comparing guesses. Comparing guess. Ooh, comparing guess. Just make sure that works. Good, it works. It might seem trivial to always double check yourself, but it's a really good practice. That way you don't like misstep like 20 steps back and you're like, what's going on? So we need to, inside of our compare guess, let's think about this for a second. I need to get the player guess, right? I need to compare, and I need to do an if statement. If player guess equals random pick, I want to display success message. Else, I need to display nope message.
You're using equal. Is that because when they enter something, it's not going to come in as a number, it's going to come in as a string?
I'm using equal because I'm just thinking about it right now. We haven't actually coded it up yet.
Okay.
This is us breaking down the problem and going like, what's going on here? When I get to actually coding it, I'll probably use double equals, to be completely honest. Or triple equals, sorry.
Okay, that's
Mhm.
fine. We don't want to trick here.
No, we want to be a little bit more secure with what we're doing. So I need to get the player guess. How do we get the player guess?
That,
Yep, document,
You-
document, query selector.
Player dot player guess.
I can copy what you
Player.
do.
What do we
It's
call it?
going to be player guess.
Oh, we haven't put it in yet.
I don't know what it is, but that's what it's going to be.
Okay.
Dot value. All right, and then I use, that's fine. Now, if, and actually I can go ahead and parse it that as well, just to save me the trouble later. You can do if player guess equals a random pick.
and,
What would be the end there?
and if there's a value there, what if they just hit enter?
Is going to convert an empty string to nothing. So it's gonna be-
Or else, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be not a number. It's going to go into the else. We could do more complex logic around it, and we probably will. It's only 11:30. But for now, let's just get this going. So update player guess. So we want to do console.log. .log success. Console.log. Nope. Comments in there. Feeling good? So I expect this to print out to the console. So if my guess is 3, if I guess 10, nope. If I guess nothing, nope. If I guess 2, nope. If I guess 3, success. Basic number guesser. Now I got to print it out to the screen. So
Alert.
we could do an alert, like it's good old 1998. Alert, you did it. Number is 5. Guess you did it. Yeah. Or we could add an li to our list. So here's a new concept of adding an element to the DOM. So yesterday, we just queried it, right? But now we actually want to create an element and add it to the DOM in JavaScript. So I will do this for the note first to get rid of that alert. Commit basic console-based number guesser. So I want to create if I look at the HTML, my results is a UL. What was that?
I said that's why you left it empty earlier.
Yep. So which is my output. So create a li that has the text try again. And then add it to the HTML. So const li, new li, equals document.create element. Now this create element function takes a string of the tag that we want to create. So I want to create an li, right? So I'd pass it an li. Now my new li, I want to set the text content to try again. then I want to append it to that UL, right? So document dot query selector hashtag output dot it is append child new li. We just did a lot there, right? So let's kind of stop there, see what we're doing. So inside of our else, this is if they guess it wrong. We're saying, hey, logging out to the console, nope. We want the user to see it, so we want to create a new li, a new element, a new HTML element inside of our JavaScript. That's what's happening on line 30. We're creating a new li. We're saying, hey, it's text content equals try again. So what's going to be inside of the tag is going to be try again. Then I'm going to add it to the DOM. So I need to pick out an element where I want to add it to. I want to find its parent, that empty UL that I had. We'll do it side by side here. And then word wrap. Nope. Ooh, we'll try it. So we're saying, hey, create me a new li, set its content to try again. Then I'm going to find where I want to put it. So in this UL right here, output, and I'm going to stick it right inside of there. That's what that append child is doing. Gus, do you have a question?
No.
Jason?
It could be anything, right? It doesn't have to be an LI. Just
Right.
an LI.
Yeah, I picked an li because I'm adding it to a unordered list.
Is appending it putting it inside
Yep.
the parent?
Yep.
Even though, because append means on the end, so it's like kind of.
So the append will actually stick it at the bottom of the children. So if I had stuff in there already, it would stick it after it.
Can you stick it before?
Prepend.
Well, you would have to choose the top item. But if you have 3 LIs already, and you want it to become the first LI,
Prepend child.
okay.
Prepend is first, child.
Append child's last. It typically is going to be append child. That's going to be like what it typically is.
And not to get, but what if you want it in the middle? You have a pre, you got a before, you got an after. What if you want it in the middle?
The children is technically an array, so you have to do some a little bit of array manipulation there.
Okay.
Can you run it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Let's see if this works. Right? We haven't actually running it. So today my name is Paul. So now it works. Now we need that success message. So I'm going to close this. Up here in success, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to create a new li, document.create element, li, new li, new il dot text content equals success.
Put a comma, not a dot.
I did, huh?
Do if and else have different scopes?
Yes, they do. Query selector.
So whenever you see a curly brace, it's pretty much a scope.
That's literally what I was about to interrupt with.
Yeah, that's the rule of thumb is curly brace is new scope.
Curly braces create a new closure.
Technically, yeah.
That's the technical term for it. It's a closure.
Which they are a lot of fun. That's a very fun interview question too.
Closures in JavaScript are different than a lot of other programming languages in the way they work, and the way they retain scope. But yeah, it's a very deep topic.
Yeah.
So because they're both, there's the if and there's the else, you can put them both in output and new li because they're going to be the same thing and there's
Say that again.
I answered my own question.
Oh, okay.
Yep. In fact, you can refactor that.
Oh yeah. We're
Okay,
gonna
cool,
we're
cool,
we're,
cool.
we're going to refactor a lot of
Cool,
this.
cool.
This is just kind of seeing it.
Might switch it.
I know. Me too.
Yeah.
Can you manipulate the CSS in that line too?
We can.
Because the list style none, like being able to do that,
Mhm.
have the bullets go away.
But we can actually put that in our CSS over here.
Okay.
UL
Make it like big and pretty. And
Yeah, that's
style
true.
none.
Because you already had the UL there.
Yeah.
True. It just wasn't.
Even if the UL wasn't there, it will still pick up the
You
styles.
can manipulate styles.
Okay,
As
so
soon as it's created, it will take the CSS.
Yep.
But sometimes one of the easiest things to do is just have classes and then just manipulate the class name in JavaScript.
Hmm. Which I think hopefully we'll get to today. What time is it? Probably.
so you have the class output for both of those.
Yes.
But then, like he was saying, in the CSS, if you wanted them to be slightly different, you could just put in like another class. So like success would be like big and green,
Yep.
and then like nope would be like red. So that would be a different class, and you would still have the output. As
That is quite honestly, that's my 11:45 talk. So you're on the right trail, which is awesome that you're thinking that way.
Thinking stuff like that.
Yep.
I mean,
It means that you're actually with me,
For
versus
now.
off in left field somewhere. So here we are, number 4. Success. Number 3. I mean, it's in the console, so But yeah.
Again, success.
we got a success.
How would you?
Get rid of try again.
Yeah, can you
Yeah,
like have it
yeah.
just like refresh so it doesn't just like repeat the list and it just like
Hmm.
you get it wrong and then
instead of a pen child, you could, it's something.
It is something else.
You have to delete it, that's what I was gonna ask, do you delete it? Or
So now the new requirement on the page, let's kind of define it, is if it's success, we want to clear the list and then add success, right? Because we want to make all the try agains go away and then just have success there. So using what we know now, what we could do is I'm going to create a new something called parent. And then parent dot, not HTML, text content equals the empty string.
Children.
There might be a remove children. Remove child.
See?
Oh, you have to do this bull crap where you loop through all the children
Yeah.
and remove child. No, don't do that. Just do what you're doing.
Yeah. So I'm going to say the text content, whatever's inside of it, is the empty string, nothing. So I'm removing it. And then I'm going to append the new child.
And since that's falsy, it's not going to have an L at all.
Right. So I'm just saying, hey, here's everything inside of it. I'm going to add to it as I go if it's false, if it's try again. Success, clear out your try agains, and add a success.
For these try agains, you could also put the guess that they made.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that they would see their,
There's
it's not 3,
so
try
much
again.
more.
It's not 4, try again.
There's
when they made a new
so much
guess.
more. Or too high, too
And it
low.
deletes.
Yeah,
I was going to do a too high, too low next to kind of see comparisons.
that's even better than showing the previous guess. Or
It is.
3 is too high.
Yes,
7 is
too low.
2. That wouldn't make sense, but yes.
Yes.
3 is too high. 1
So-
is too low.
So let's make sure that our clearing works first before we do that. So-
I'm skeptical about this. You see the text node being treated differently than the children because you can have children nodes and a
Yep.
text node.
Yeah,
So I'm actually surprised that works.
I'm not surprised that works because
You
JavaScript.
know it. Yeah.
But and it's how I've done it before, but it's because I used to use inner HTML.
Yeah.
But it's like shouldn't use that.
Right.
But I could use it for that though. But you shouldn't use it at all. Anyways,
If could you check to make sure that they're entering the right kind of value? Like if they're not entering a number.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you
yeah.
can just put F, so you can have a pop up that says like
Yeah.
presented the right format.
Yep. So let's do two things. Let's check if they entered a number.
Is this up?
We'll come back to that. We'll just put a little to do here. And we'll do down here in the try again. We will tell the user if their guess is too high or too low. All right, so
Did we set a specific number of guesses that they would have?
not yet. That's another feature that we could add. Yeah, right? There's so much we could do here. I like that you're all thinking in this direction too. Makes me feel good.
What?
So if. So I'm going to. So right before we have the text here, I'm going to do an if statement. If player guess is greater than random pick, we know that it is too high. So the text content should be player guess is too high. Else, we know by default that it's too low. Because if it's too high, it's going to go here. If it equals it, it's going to be an entirely different part of the application. So we know by default, it's too low. That's kind of become like our catch-all case now.
Else.
If else,
No, I mean,
oh yeah.
Or else.
Mhm. So it's 4. And that's the number. So if we type 2, it's too low. 7, too high. 4.5, because I'm that guy, success.
Parsing an integer.
Exactly, because we're doing parsant. If we recall from yesterday, parsant ignores everything that's past the decimal point. So even though I was trying to be cheeky and guessed 4.5, it still said, oh, it's 4, you're right.
So if you wanted decimal inputs, you could just do truncate. Or, well, no.
Just change it to parse float instead of parsant.
Wait, but what if you want an integer, but you're saying 4.5? Well, that's not right. If the number is 4 and you say 4.5,
Mm-hmm. So,
then
what?
you really need to check the validity of the
Exactly. Yep. So we want to check, we want to validate for if it's a letter or a number. We want to check if the number is a whole number. What else could we do here?
From 1 to 10.
Yep. If it's in the range, whatever the range is. Does that sound good for now?
so far it's if it's a positive integer.
Between.
And you don't
Oh
need
yeah.
all those other
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, of course. But
positive integer less than or equal to 10.
yep. So we want to check to see if it is a number. So what would parsant return if it's not a number?
Not enough.
Invalid guess.
NaN. So if we recall, NaN is a falsy value, right?
That's going to kick us straight to the else.
So
Not player.
yep, we can say if player guess, and then put all of our if statement inside of there. Why does it not like this? So we've wrapped, I'm going to collapse these a little bit. We've wrapped our old if statement inside of another if statement, we're saying, hey, if player guess is a thing, if it's a truthy value,
I'm getting a little lost on player guess as to determine whether it's a number or a character. So their player guess is you're generating a number,
Mhm.
so it's not empty.
So let's explore what parsint does. So head over here to our REPL. All right. So if we do parsint, if me as the user, if I put in 4, I'm going to get 4 back. If I put in hello, something that's not a number, I get back not a number. So this line right here,
I see, okay, alright, I got it.
Mhm.
Okay, got it.
yes, returning the number guess or not a number. And not a number is JavaScript terms for not a number. It does.
Something else than a number.
Yes, it's a really unique kind of case, and it's kind of really interesting from a programming technical point of view, because it's not saying that it isn't it's not saying it is anything. It just knows what it's not, and it's not a number.
Man is definitely the construct of unique to JavaScript programming language, most programming languages. Like a lot of things that you're going to see here, in fact, the vast majority of things you see here, has some other correlating feature in other programming languages. Man is definitely one of the unique things about
Yes.
JavaScript. And there's actually a pretty good reason for it.
Oh yeah, it's cool, it's fun, it's interesting.
More importantly, though, most of the code you write in most programming languages, you compile it on your machine, and then it goes and it executes on somebody else's machine in the same way that you wrote it. JavaScript, however, is going to run in the user's web browser on their computer. You don't know when you're writing that code what machine they're using, what type of web browser they're using. There's so many variables to how that code's going to execute. Also, if your JavaScript program breaks and the web page doesn't know what to do to run it, your whole website could essentially just stop functioning, let alone just like that one thing stop working. So the way the JavaScript language is designed and the way the browser executes the code and handles a lot of errors, it errors on the side of not halting whatever the user is doing, not stopping the entire program. That's why Mark's showing you like all these coercions that JavaScript will like try to convert something to truthy, whether or not it's true or some other value or falsy. It's because maybe the programmer made a mistake. So JavaScript is kind of going to try to just keep that program running. So rather than throwing an error, not having a thing, it has a thing that's just not some other thing, but your program will keep running. That's why there's a lot of these little weird things about JavaScript, and always just remember, like, oh yeah, they're trying to keep it so that this program will keep running no matter what dumb stuff the programmer did, what dumb stuff the user did.
So that's why it's flex forgiving language.
Yes.
Because it doesn't break.
Right.
But that forgiving also gives you a lot of flexibility to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yep. Lots of times.
So, being a very good JavaScript programmer is hard, but being a bad JavaScript programmer is very easy. Whereas in a lot of other programming languages, being a bad programmer means you don't have a running program. Right? So it's the same thing with CSS and HTML. Some of you have noticed you write some very invalid HTML, but the browser figures out what you mean and does the right thing. Because browsers are very much designed to be as bulletproof and as resilient as possible. Kind of like run flat tires on a car. You know, like you shoot out the tires, but like the car's gonna keep going.
It's gonna try its best. It's
it's very much what the browser's doing with your code. And that's why Name exists. To facilitate that business.
Yep. So we have try again with a number. Same way we did before. We're going to create a new LI independent to the parent inside of our else. So this is checking for us if make sure that the guess is a number. We also want to check to make sure that it is within the range, right? Between 0 and 10. So where would we want to put that?
Would you say if player guess and or ampersand what was, player guess is less than or equal to 10. Yeah, boom, and also greater than or equal to 0, right?
Do we think this will work?
Why do player guess there twice?
It's very complex logic there, you might want to break it a little bit.
Oh, you don't want 0 either, you want 1, but sorry.
They don't have compound
So
inequalities.
nope. So this is kind of what Alexis was saying. Why do we need to put player guess here multiple times, right? Like this is kind of weird. So each one of these between the and signs is its own unique phrase, its own isolated instance. So if I wanted to check player guess against all these ranges, I have to repeat player guess for each one. So I could not do something that's like this. It just feels more natural, right? Like, does player guess exist? And less than 10 and greater than 1. It reads more like English. But here, we're trying to speak JavaScript here. So we need to actually put each. Yep, so we have to say we're checking player guess, and we're checking this, and we're checking that.
So the first player guess is just saying that it's there,
Yes.
and it is between these two.
Yep.
things. Okay.
So this whole if statement, this whole parenthesis bound thingamabob, is only going to be true if all three of those values are true. Because remember, with and, everything has to be true.
So if you got rid of the first player guess, what would happen?
This?
Yeah.
Well, let's make sure that this works first. In the range 1 to 10. Let's make sure this works, and then we'll mess around with it. So that still works. If I guess 20, 22, still works. Cool.
Change it yet, okay?
What?
Don't take it out yet.
I want minor validation. Minor validation. All right. So Gus, before we take it out, what's up?
No, I'm just thinking about if you take that out, if it'll work or not. So the first one basically means if the user did the action of guessing.
Yeah, like
That's what it means.
did they guess something that's a number? That's what this is saying.
So in a certain way, it's already embedded in the other one because
So do we think this will work? Yes? Raise your hand. Yes?
Put the right value in.
Would
Raise
it
your hand.
show up even if you don't put anything in? Is that what that's saying? Because your
Well,
value would be not between like 1
Right.
and 10 because there is no value.
Right.
So would it just show the message constantly saying that it's try again?
So you're saying this would work?
No, you're
No,
checking
but that-
for,
Well, doesn't it have to convert player guess to an integer to compare it against an integer?
Yeah. So it's kind of so if it's a letter, let's think about this for a second before we try it. All right. Because we want to actually know like what I'm going to expect either to work or not work. So if player guess is a number, it's going to be a valid integer. It's going to do the comparison and it's going to work fine. Right? If it's not a valid number, so if it's -4, it's going to do the comparison and kick you down here, which is right. If I type in ABC, player guess is going to be name, not a number, right? So what if I compare not a number to 10, what's it going to return, true or false? False. I mean, you're right, false, correct.
It's gonna kick it out. So.
Yeah.
So you could do it that way.
So yeah, I could do it this way.
what if you would put quotation marks around the number?
So I'm going to expect this to pass.
you save it.
Probably. Yep. All right. Now my numbers. 5 is too low. 9 is too high. Success. So it works. So the question on the table before we go to the other comment is should I check to see if player guess is a thing? Do I need to? Thoughts?
Well, didn't you already in player guess do the parse in thing?
Yeah, so
You
I'm
don't have to,
guaranteed.
like, the whole numbers.
Mhm.
We know that.
So do we need that?
I don't think so.
Do we need to see if it's a treaty value or not? I see a yes and a no.
Wait a minute,
Is
when
there-
you have it written there, shouldn't you, if to check whether it's a truthy value,
Mhm.
shouldn't you have greater, less than, equal, to check the type?
It's a good point. We're only using less than equals here. If I change this to less than or equal,
No, because then it would be only 10, right?
Or just make sure that the types are the same.
yeah,
Well, we've already
No.
parsed into it, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be the same.
so we've already parsed into it. So here we are. So should we put that there or not?
I don't think it's necessary. Trying to think of an outlier.
Coding style. That's all that is. This is fine and this works. The other way is just kind of extra validation for us. There's no real performance gains. There's no real anything. You might get a bit more clarity in your code. You may not.
And if you put a decimal number in there, it will. What did we do to the decimal numbers again? Did we?
We
Oh,
don't.
when you did parse int, it made
Just,
it.
yeah, runs
Yeah.
down.
Yep. It just round.
round-
We haven't
it
done.
chops off.
We haven't done that part yet.
Okay.
So if else's logic, how are we feeling? Feeling pretty good?
With the logic, yeah.
What?
With the logic, yes.
Yeah, like
Writing
With the
it
syntax,
yeah. So it's important to follow the logic, so you can actually map out, like, in English, what's going on. That's the most important part. If you're following that, then you are +1 for today. So you should be feeling good about that.
So you're following the logic.
Yes.
Of not how
How
it's,
ifs
how
work.
it's thinking.
Yes.
Syntax will just come with practice.
Syntax comes with practice, and quite honestly, it's a Google search away.
Yeah.
Or an ask your neighbor, like, hey, what's the and again? Is it ampersand? Is it question mark? Or something like that. That stuff will come with time. But the logic part of how it's actually running, that's the core topic for today.
So just to reiterate, in the first if, when
Yeah.
it says, the first thing it does is player check, and it internally checks to see if it's a number.
Yep.
If it's a number, then it will compare it to
Yep.
the digits to the right of the less than.
Mhm.
And once that evaluates
Yep.
to true,
Yep.
it then will check the right hand side, which will again
Yep.
do the same thing of is it a number?
Yep.
And if it's greater than.
It will check each one of these bits, each one of these pieces from left to right.
And if it's true, then it will go to the second if statement.
False, it sends back.
Yes, false, it kicks out. It goes down here. True, it will go here, and then go in there. Yep.
Is it better to have greater than and equal signs? Like I noticed you could change that last one to player guess greater than 0, and it would probably still be the same.
Coding style.
Right?
Yeah. So like, could I change this to greater than 0?
Yes.
Logically, it's doing the exact same thing. It's personal preference.
You could do the same thing for the other one, less than 11.
Yeah. Less than 11.
Since we're going to be making a whole number.
Yeah, you're making it easier.
Yep. Feeling good?
Unless you want it to be equal to 0. 0 is a valid number.
Right. So like, you could play around with that and like what those specifics are. Like, that's fine. So you're feeling good? Homework will be out shortly.
So if you want to do
No preview?
No preview. It's okay. It's going to be tic-tac-toe. Not tic-tac-toe. The other one.
Rock,
rock paper scissors.
Yeah, rock paper scissors. I had to think about it for a second.
If you wanted to make it whole numbers only, you just do player guess
So
dot is integer.
yeah, so it's 12 o'clock. I'll release homework shortly. Save that question for the review at 2. And I just want to kind of explore how to do that. You don't need it for tonight's homework, but it's a really cool thought exercise. Does that sound good? All right.